Someone keyed my Tesla for being an EV. What they forgot was the car's cameras. The sound of my fingernail catching on the scratch was the worst sound I have ever heard. It was a sharp, jagged zip that traveled from the glossy surface of the paint straight up my arm and settled as a cold, heavy stone in the pit of my stomach. I stood in my driveway, the morning coffee in my other hand rapidly losing its heat, staring at the disaster that used to be the passenger side of my brand new Model 3. It wasn't a ding. It wasn't an accidental brush with a bicycle handle. This was a canyon. A deep, serrated gash that started at the rear quarter panel, carved its way across both doors, and ended in a violent little swirl on the front fender. It went down to the primer. In some spots, I could see the bare metal winking at me in the 7 a.m. sunlight, mocking the $60,000 I had just spent. I didn't scream. I wanted to. I wanted to throw my mug into the street and howl at the sky. But the rage that hit me wasn't the hot, explosive kind. It was cold. It was a freezing, focused clarity that slowed my heart rate down to a predatory thump. I knew who did this. I didn't need a detective. I didn't need a crystal ball. I just needed to look across the strip of grass that separated my driveway from the house next door. Brenda. Brenda was a woman who treated the Neighborhood Homeowners Association bylaws like a religious text. She was in her late 50s, with hair that was sprayed into a helmet of blonde defiance and a permanent scowl etched into the wrinkles around her mouth. She hated change. She hated noise. But paradoxically, she hated silence even more, specifically, the silence of my car. When I brought the Tesla home last week, she had been standing on her porch. I gave her a wave. She didn't wave back. She just crossed her arms and shouted, "Great. Another golf cart. You know those batteries are going to explode and burn the whole block down, right?" "They're pretty safe, Brenda," I had replied, trying to keep the peace. "It's unnatural," she had yelled back. "Cars are supposed to make noise. I can't hear you coming. It's a safety hazard for my grandbabies." Her grandbabies visited once a year for 4 hours. I looked at the scratch again. It was raw. It was malicious. It was personal. I walked over to her house. The gravel of her walkway crunched under my boots. My hands were balled into fists in my jacket pockets, my knuckles popping. I took a deep breath, trying to loosen the tension in my jaw, and rang the doorbell. It took a while. I could hear movement inside. Finally, the door swung open. Brenda stood there in a floral bathrobe, holding a steaming mug of tea. She looked comfortable. She looked smug. She looked like a woman who had slept the sleep of the righteous. "What is it, Mike?" she asked, not bothering to hide the annoyance in her voice. "It's 7:15 in the morning. Someone keyed my car, Brenda," I said. My voice was low, steady. "Sometime last night. Tore the paint right off the side." She took a sip of her tea. She didn't look surprised. She didn't gasp. She didn't offer sympathy. She just raised an eyebrow, a flicker of a smile touching the corner of her lips. "Well," she said, "that's a shame. But you know, this neighborhood isn't what it used to be. Lots of teenagers roaming around at night. Hoodlums." "Teenagers," I repeated. "Teenagers who decided to target only my car. The only electric car on the street. Maybe they don't like them either," she shrugged. "Maybe they think they're ugly. I certainly do." Brenda, I stepped closer. I could smell her perfume. It smelled like lavender and bitterness. "It wasn't teenagers. I know it was you. You told me 3 days ago you wanted that eyesore out of your sight." "Excuse me." Her voice went shrill. She clutched her pearls. Literally, she was wearing pearls with a bathrobe. "Are you accusing me of vandalism? I am the vice president of the HOA. I am a pillar of this community. What happens next isn't just about catching a criminal. It's about watching a worldview shatter in 4K resolution." You see, Brenda thinks she lives in a world where she can bully people into submission and hide behind her curtains. She thinks proof means an eyewitness. In about 20 minutes, I'm going to introduce her to a little thing called a terabyte hard drive and a felony charge. The look on her face when the police officer turns my phone screen toward her isn't just fear, it's the realization that the 21st century just ran her over. But first, I had to see the tape. I had to see the hate in her eyes with my own 2 ones. Kindly click here to watch full version.